remains below global standards. The 2015-2016 budget targets a total revenue collection of 1.34 trillion shillings, which is 26% of the gross domestic product. Under the current fiscal year, the taxman has a target of raising 1.16 trillion shillings, of 20.3% of GDP. It is expected that there will be increased taxation, which includes enactment of income tax regime for extractive industry and reintroduction of the capital gains tax, which has caused friction between the taxman and the stockbrokers over its implementation. All right? So we need to have a conversation about taxes in this country. We need to have a conversation about funding our own budget. And that's why Patrick Ngumi, Dr. Patrick Ngumi from ISPAC Kenya is right here with us. Karibu sana daktari.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you. Yeah. And just to have the budget conversation, where are we at as a country, economically speaking?
In my own opinion, I think progressively we are covering ground in terms of growth. Mm-hmm. And you realize that other than the year 2013, when we had 5.7% GDP growth, and then 2014, 5.3%, and there's a projection of gaining that or covering that in 2015, 2016 to over 6%, I think gradually we are doing well.
The optimism is there.
The optimism is there. Mm-hmm. The fundamentals are okay, save for some few challenges. If they are addressed, definitely will be able to take off. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the region, I think we form some of the few countries within the sub-Saharan Africa mm-hmm. that are growing at a very high rate. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Growing at a very high rate. It's okay, mm-hmm. and we appreciate. However, you've raised a point that I was hoping we can address a little later in the show, but let's do it now, Daktari. Mm-hmm. 5.7% 2013-2014, 2014-2015 5.3, a decline.
Yes.
Then we are projecting 6.1%. However, if you look at some of the sectors that propel economic growth in this country, have we done considerably well enough to ensure that those sectors are built to translate into gain for the economy?
The first thing to note is that the decline in growth between 2013, 2014, and the other one for the previous year from 5.7 to 5.3 mm-hmm. was driven by not meeting some assumptions. Remember that the national budget is made on particular assumptions. For example, you would expect that there was an assumption on security, which really brought down some of the parameters or some of the targets in the budget making process. Like issues of security was not there. The issue of the Ebola. That hit us in a way. The slowdown of some of the economies that where the country depends on, especially within the Eurozone, mm-hmm. You would expect this somehow, despite them being a distance from us, they affected our growth, because remember, economies are interdependent. There's a lot of import-export business between the areas I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And of course, this year, today, we expect Henry Rotich, the CS Treasury, to read out the 2015-2016 budget for this country. Yeah. Already, there is expectation. I'm a bit hesitant to call it concern, mm-hmm. but there is expectation that there will be a little bit more taxes levied to make sure that we fund our 2.2 trillion worth of budget. What's your take on that? Is it a good move, or will it work against us?
The first thing to say is that governments worldwide, mm-hmm. they thrive on taxation in order to develop. And remember, the other thing is that the budget making process has changed from item-based budgeting to program-based budgeting. And that is why you find in 2013, 2014, and 2015, 2016, our budget is riding on 5 pillars. Mm-hmm. And to finance the programs within those 5 pillars requires additional revenues for the government in terms of taxation and other sources of government funding, mm-hmm. yeah, be it borrowing, be it grants, and the likes. Mm-hmm. Yes, so for me, increasing taxes, it's not a big issue. What should be the issue is how are the corrections or the monies realized from increased taxation or from the taxes, how are they used? Yeah, is there a monitoring mechanism, an evaluation mechanism to see that there's value for money for Kenyans as they get taxed more?
Absolutely. And when we touch on taxes, we simply cannot avoid the issue of tax compliance in this country. Still very wanting, yet we want to have more taxes. How do we reconcile the two?
The tax compliance levels in our country are not very good. And to me, this is largely contributed by a very complicated tax regime. And I have noted in the budget policy statement, there's an intention, and it was there even in the 2013-2014, there's an intention by the government to simplify the tax regimes. One, I note they want to separate issues of inward revenue and issues of customs and excise duty. The other thing is to come up with simple tax systems that meet what we call the canons of taxation, the simple principles of taxation. Simple, easy tax systems, and people will be easy to comply. Yes.
What makes it so difficult for us to get it right when it comes to taxes?
To me, we need to invest in a lot of citizen education because many people do not understand why they need to pay taxes. We come from a regime from the colonial times when taxes were levied to punish people or to get money to develop other areas. But now you see with the coming of the county government and the devolution, if we are able to educate Kenyans, people will really volunteer to pay taxes. Yes.
We will really volunteer to pay taxes.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Daktari,
Yeah.
today in the morning, a report in the dailies, money is going to the counties. Fine, that's what we wanted through the constitution, isn't it?
Yes.
Devolution. But however, there are concerns that the formula that is being used, 45% is based on population. Based on a population 2009, that the census was contested, some of the figures, people are not so comfortable with them. A county like Wajir, for example, demographically, it's estimated to grow by 400%, and analysts are saying that's impossible. However, come the budget, they're actually benefiting from some of these things. How do you think we're going to reconcile in terms of inconsistencies and getting the real thing on the ground?
One, let me say, a 400% growth over a period of 10 years is a demographic nightmare. And that is why the National Statistics Office ordered for a recount of people in 8 districts, the former districts.
Right.
However, we continue to see the same statistics being used to allocate funds. I note some of the counties you have mentioned, the per capita allocation of the county funds is about 16,000 shillings. Compared to some very productive, heavily populated areas where the per capita allocation is as small as 3,000 shillings.
Exactly.
That presents some skewness. Definitely the disadvantaged and the marginalized ASAL areas, there is need for obviously equalization funds so that they can also catch up because there are also some injustices that need to be corrected. Remember, the revenue allocation system is very new to us.
Right.
And definitely we are going through the teething cycle, and I've seen progressively the CRA revising to ensure equity. It's not the issue of equity in the sharing of.
Exactly.
It may not be equal, but some equity
at least
should be demonstrated.
Should be demonstrated.
Yes.
How when it comes to taxes, I'll still go back there and talk about capital gains tax.
Yes.
Something that we expect will dominate, the budget this year in terms of where the government will get its revenue. What's your take on that?
To me, as I said in the beginning, taxation is not bad because we need to support the government to grow. Capital gains tax is not a bad tax. The challenges that are currently going around the capital gains tax is the implementation aspect. It has presented very rigid and some hardships in the implementation of the tax. And therefore, I would be, and Kenyans by large would be expecting the minister, the CS, National Treasury today, to put across intentional and deliberate instructions on easing the implementation. I can tell you, for example, we are in a country where even record keeping is a problem. That tax requires very methodical management of records.
Right.
The other thing is that the tax puts the burden of correction on a person who may not have the necessary knowledge or the ability to correct that tax. The other thing is that the tax is using absolute figures. For example, if I give an example of a stock or land, the value may appreciate, not necessarily because of increase in the intrinsic value of that asset, but sometimes it's increased because of inflation, for example. So there is need for a national indexation policy on how to value some of these assets.
And do you think that kind of a situation for this country is good for investor confidence, Dr. We need the same investors to come in.
To me, yes, it is good, because we are not the only ones levying tax. If you go to our neighbors in the region, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, and let me tell you, one of the things that we need to understand as Kenyans, we are heading to convergence within the region. Yeah, we are heading to where we need to have uniform taxes, uniform human resource development, and uniform policies on trade. If that is going to be achieved, then we need to be seen to be taking, even if they are baby steps, towards regional convergence. And therefore, can you imagine a block where it's only one country without capital gains tax? The point I'm trying to put across is that it is only the implementation. The implementation.
And that's where I am, Dr.
Yes.
The implementation, of course, it's a nightmare.
Yes.
Will that do us any good when it comes to investors? Because the issue is not the money.
Yes.
It's how you use the money. It's how you come about with ensuring that what you have, you're able to translate it into good use. When there are loopholes when it comes to implementation of capital gains tax, what exactly can the CS do? What can the government do to ensure that some of these loopholes are tightened?
The national monitoring mechanisms, not necessary for tax, for every other government initiative. For example, I like the way the president has put up a presidential delivery unit. It's a monitoring unit to ensure the flagship projects that are within the purview of the presidency are monitored, and to ensure there's delivery for value for money. Similarly, the budget implementation mechanism, I know there's monitoring and evaluation, but it needs to be enhanced in terms of building capacity, in terms of improving the frameworks. Because the biggest question many Kenyans ask, yes, this is the budget, it's coming from our taxes. How have those taxes been translated into projects or programs that impact the society positively? Yes.
And of course, there's one that is coming in here. Yeah. The budget today, among other things, is to give roadmap and true economic situation and challenges likely to face the country in the medium term, which is something we expect the CS to outline. In your own view, in your own level of capacity as an expert in this particular field, Dr. What do you think he's going to say as far as this is concerned? The challenges, the true economic situation, and how we can project growth?
One of the things, let me first of all highlight the key pillars that the budget is going to be riding on before we get to the challenges.
Right.
The budget has 5 key pillars that were even used the other year. One of them is improving the business environment. The second one is improving, modernization of agriculture. The third one is investing in critical infrastructure, especially in transport and logistics, ensuring access to social facilities, especially education and health. And the last one is to support the budget promises, to support devolution in order to foster economic growth. These pillars have programs within them. And the main thing is how do we get there to achieve the programs with those pillars? Definitely there will be challenges. And the first one I see is security. Security has been a nightmare, and especially in view of the various attacks that have been going on in the country, from the Al-Shabaab. There are also petty crimes. Those are also issues of insecurity. Petty crimes are also an issue in this country because investors continue to ruse assets and other investments through robbery, through grabbing, those kind of things. The other thing that may affect the achievement of the targets is the unpredictable weather conditions. You will realize that in the past we have had to suffer from deficits in our food basket and courtesy of bad weather conditions. And I think there is need for a deliberate investment in order to avoid heavy reliance on rain-fed agriculture, like what is happening, the 1 million acres. I believe most of it will be relying on irrigation, and that will ensure that at least the issues of drought are mitigated.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm getting a little bit excited here.
Yes.
Due to the kind of comments that we're receiving on Twitter.
Yes.
You can go ahead and find me on Twitter at Sami1Njoroge. Let me know what you think about this discussion. And most importantly, let's have your questions related to the budget. One here says, anything for Wanjiku or everything from her? And they go ahead and ask, is it possible to finance the budget without hurting the goose that lays the golden egg, and that is the taxpayer?
To me, I know the Wajiko budget is a huge expectation from the common mwananchi. There is expectation that if you will tax some things, there should be levies or rebates in some other areas.
Right.
So we would expect a give and take affair. Remember, taxation is a give and take affair, that you take taxes from the citizen, but you give back through good service, through good infrastructure. And I think that way the Wajiko should be happy. Yes, because even the Wajiko would need good roads, would need clean water, would need electricity, would need good schools, good hospitals. That, again, it's a balance between the goose and the eggs. Yeah.
And the eggs.
Yes.
Absolutely. Daktari, when it comes to last year, there were a lot of promises and a lot of projections that were made in the previous financial year. Analysts would say not much of that has been achieved. Moving forward, here we come. We're moving up from 1.7 trillion to 2.2 trillion. Anyone would ask, what's happening? Do we really have a structured way through which we do a socio-economic audit of the budgets that we read in this country and ensure that they translate into value for this country?
I support the idea of a socio-economic audit so that Kenyans are able to be told through these programs, through these investments, this is how these investments have been converted into socio-economic benefits. This is largely happening, but it happens from the civil society, who normally interrogate various investments. But to give just an example is, you have seen some of the major infrastructure developments in this country. And let me mention two areas like roads and energy. You have seen how they have opened up areas. You have seen how those development corridors have turned around the lives of people, improving accessibility to urban areas, and therefore making those rural areas, the per capita within those areas to improve, because people are able now to sell their produce. In other words, goods have been able to move from areas of surplus to areas of deficit, ensuring the supply and demand aspects are working, just because of those infrastructure projects. Energy, the power distribution in the country has opened up. Some of us come from rural areas where we never even dreamt whether there will be power. People are coming with small SME businesses. It's increasing the urbanization of some of the rural areas, and therefore controlling the rural-urban migration. Therefore, to me, yes, what we need to do is to have a formal mechanism of documenting some of these, outcomes from programs.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I know you're pressed for time.
Yeah.
You're pressed for time, and we've got to bring this to a close. But what are your final thoughts in regards to the budget 2015-2016?
One is, first of all, I have noted that there's a lot of compliance improvement in the preparation of the budget 2015-2016. Remember, the National Treasury is supposed to comply with the Public Finance Act of 2012, PFM Act, in terms of what should appear in the budget policy statement. That was a good one. And also submitting it to Parliament on time. It was submitted on the 13th of February when the deadline was 15th, which was good, though close to the deadline, but at least in terms of general compliance with budget making process, it's an improvement. The other parting shot is, as Kenyans, we would want to see a very enhanced mechanism for monitoring the budget implementation. Because reading is one, but the outcomes of the investments and the allocations that go into the projects is another aspect. And so that we control the aspects of some of the monies allocated for development getting into corrupt practices. And in this case, we commend the president for the fight, spirited fight on corruption. Rastri is an urge to the county governments and even the national government to improve mechanisms that are supposed to facilitate the budget absorption, both recurrent and development. Remember, you can have the budget, you can have the money, you can have the programs, you can have the strategies, you can have the activities. But if that money is not absorbed and translated into economic activities, both recurrent and development, then the 6-point-something% growth in the GDP will not be realized.
Will not be realized. And that's a concern for all of us. We bring this to a close. Dr. Ari, thank you so much for your company and your insights. Of course, KBC Channel 1 business team is working round the clock to make sure that from 10 a.m. you get a comprehensive coverage of the budget this year, 2015-2016. You need to keep it KBC for that. What's the point of this morning's discussion? A critical analysis of the projected spending plans reveals a budget largely molded towards improving the business environment, enhancing women and youth empowerment, improved infrastructure, support of devolution, tourism recovery, and security modernization, among other government's development agenda. Until it is implemented and it translates to good quality of life for you and I, it still remains that, an agenda. All right? Therefore, we need to work collectively. M&E is very important, as Dr. Ari is saying. But for now, we bring this to a close because Benachi and Hope Kid are coming right back to perform for us as we bring GMK to a close. Keep it right here.
Ready or not, here I come. You can't hide. one year. Party in the party till it's ran off. Ran, leave it to my crew. It's gonna be lifestyles of the rich and shameless. Violating, they will end up nameless.
Homegrown. We go live each and every Sunday. Catch up with us and have a feel of Africa, shopping the best Africa has to offer. Homegrown. This and every other Sunday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Homegrown.